Smash Ultimate's about to be 6 years old in a couple of months. I can't believe this game came out back in 2018. A lot has happened over the years, even though patches have concluded during the first half of the game's tenure thus far. Perceptions over characters have changed, players have developed and adapted their playstyles to other players developing and adapting their playstyles, and despite all the doom posting that went on in 2022 and 2023, I feel like the competitive scene has managed to stay fresh and exciting. Personally, I still look forward to watching and attending majors. A significant change that took place over the years is Ultimate's tier list. Being highly subjective, a tier list can change over time even if a character doesn't get buffed or nerfed, as players find more angles and strategies that can cause a character to get stronger, and vice versa, as players develop more counterplay, a character can become weaker by consequence. Smash Ultimate's timeline has effectively been severed into two eras, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. To say that who we consider top tier are different between the two eras would be an understatement. Half the cast members who put in top 10 have fallen off the list at this point, with many no longer even being considered top tier. Bringing us to our video for today, I wanted to go over Smash's X top tiers and how they fell off from the meta. I should reiterate that given tier placements can be subjective, one can debate whether it's just our perceptions of a character that have soured over time, or if perhaps they overrated the character back then. Whatever the case, balance changes and the inclusion of new fighters definitely contributed to the fluctuations in character placements for better or worse, and I would say there are 5 notable ones. Even though the first quote-unquote official tier list of the game didn't come out until LumiRank took it upon themselves to be the central governing body for this, the competitive scene has been closely observing the progression of each character throughout the meta, namely keeping track of who's been doing worse over the past few years. For some, direct balance changes caused them to fall down a few pegs as a result of being overall less effective than we initially thought, while for others, it likely was due to the meta progressing in a way that diminished their strengths and/or further exposed their weaknesses. So let's go through one at a time to locate the problem, beginning with the man himself, Joker. Joker was once believed to be the best character in Smash Ultimate when he first came out, and you wouldn't have to dig too deep to find out why. He had virtually every positive aspect of the game you could ask for without overextending too much in any of them. Fast on the ground and the air, good frame data, good combo game, good grab game, fast faller but not too fast to make him susceptible to combos, good utility, good ledge trapping, good edge guarding, good recovery, good neutral, good advantage, good disadvantage. He was honestly just good in every field, or perhaps great, with his only noteworthy weakness being comparatively worse attack range than that of actual mid-range fighters. Joker's fall from grace came as a result of 3 key factors in my opinion, first of which being the direct nerfs he sustained, many of which were compounded by the growing punish-oriented win conditions of most characters. Version 7 oversaw the harshest nerfs to Joker, first with his down gun losing a considerable amount of horizontal coverage, forcing Joker to effectively be right above his opponent to connect any of the shots. While gun is still easily top 5 neutral beam material, losing this worsened both Joker's offensive and defensive game, as it's a lot easier to attack him from a diagonal angle on his way down, and he can't gimp or edgeguard with gun nearly as effortlessly. Second major nerf was to Arsene, wherein Joker's Rebellion gauge would deplete faster upon taking damage, exactly 33% faster at that, making it so a good combo string or a couple neutral hits would be enough to get rid of his persona almost entirely before he had a chance to use it. Considering without Arsene, Joker would be at most a high-tier character, it makes sense why he went from top 2, arguably number 1, to his new placement of rank 10, on the fringe of falling off the Apex tiers. Most people consider top tier to be rank 15 or higher, so by all accounts, Joker is still a top tier, but going from rank 1 to rank 10 is still a pretty measurable decline, and it's easy to see why. On average, Joker has Arsene less often than he used to, forcing players to rely more on his base version, which by my estimate would be around rank 20 or even lower. If hypothetically Joker had perma Arsene, then of course he would be the best character in the game, so averaging that out, Joker would be hanging around the 10 to 15 spot. Targeting Rebellion Gage's depletion was a double whammy, because the meta was already progressing in the direction of more damaging punish games. The final reason is, I think it was the top player effect, where people had such a high opinion of a character purely because it was a fighter of choice, or the GOAT of Smash Ultimate. Not to downplay the achievements of Tsubaki, Goryoka, and Omega, but it's no coincidence that public opinion towards Joker dwindled following Leo's decreasing results. And though watching his Joker now looks even more impressive than pre-pandemic, that's where the nerfs came into play, causing an overall loss of value in the metagame for Ren, or Akira, whichever name you prefer. Next character is going to be Roy. After the initial explosive reception of Chrom came and went, Roy was a perennial top tier for the first few years of the game, being considered the best sortie prior to the advent of Aegis. Having strong hitters across the globe like Alice, Flo, and Goblin, along with the Roy main Cola, representation and results came for the boy, and it's about time too after having poor status in Melee and Smash 4. Once unanimously agreed upon as a top 10 character, Roy now sits at rank 19, which I politely disagree with. I think that may have been a bit too pessimistic of a rating for him, but I can see why. Roy's all about aggression, striking first and continuously striking with unrelenting pressure. His ability to effectively mash and get away with it made him as effective as he was dangerous, and unlike Joker, he hasn't received any nerfs at all. Moreover, considering the myriad of ways a Roy can f you up, logic dictates that he would only have gotten better as the player base became more punish-oriented. On paper, yes, Roy's punish game may be even more threatening than his aggression, but his downfall stems from one simple issue with this gameplay: he has to engage. Most sword fighters prioritize a mid-range, spacing-oriented playstyle to strike opponents while avoiding their attacks. You can easily see this among the likes of Cloud, Pyra, and Sora, whose superior hitboxes enable them to play a keep-away game rather than actual approach. To an extent, Roy can perform this too, but with his pressure being much weaker from afar given his unique hitboxes, Roy has been thought of as a fake swordy, kind of like Joker. They do make use of weapons, but their effective range isn't significant enough to allow them to play a spacing-oriented strategy. At the very least, for Joker though, he has 2 long-range attacks, one of which cannot be reflected, which he can then use to force approaches. Roy, on the other hand, does not. He has to go in close, uncomfortably close at that, and with the rise of many punish-oriented characters like Steve, Kazuya, Game & Watch, Sonic, Snake, Bayonetta, Luigi, and by extension everyone else getting better at taking a mile when given an inch, having no option to play wait and see makes it so Roy has to fly dangerously close to the sun, rendering him vulnerable to getting exploded as easily as he can explode them. So far, the top Roy players have been able to adapt, with Cola in particular learning how to temper his aggression just enough to not overextend. But the fact remains, Roy has to engage. Watching Cola Set vs Riddles as CEO is a testament to how ridiculously tight the margin for errors. Cola literally went Ultra Instinct that day and it still came down to the wire. Trying to sustain that long term just isn't tenable, so while Roy has stayed the same, the meta evolved against him. Next character will be Wolf. Mr. O'Donnell came back from Smash Ball with a vengeance, quickly rising to prominence during the pre-pandemic era and even briefly during post-pandemic. Like Joker, Wolf had the perfect combination of speed, strength, and tools to handle just about any situation, only instead of fluctuating between strong with Arsene and weak without, Wolf had a consistent power level. Being a jack of all trades is especially helpful during the early stages of a meta. Since you don't know what to expect, it helps to have an answer for everything. As time goes on though, and players become more refined and optimized, playing a character with the potential to min-max can take you much further, as evident by the number of mid-tiers climbing through the ranks, while generalist characters like Wolf and Palutena have been falling off in recent years. Between the two, Wolf has definitely gotten hurt more. The interesting thing is, people were complaining about Wolf getting nerfed a bunch, but really the only thing that got nerfed was down smash, which is still an absurdly strong attack even to this day. Lester suffered 3 more frames of end lag, but considering Wolf shoots it from far away, it doesn't make that much of a difference anyway. Not to say that down smash no longer killing at 50 is irrelevant, but it's not like they gutted his entire kit. Calling back to the aforementioned lack of min-maxing, Wolf has, for the most part, been solved a long time ago. He has great tools, but they're very honest in what they do, not allowing for any real nuance beyond their initial applications. To be fair, those initial applications are all he really needs, but I think as a whole, Wolf's decline came from a mixture of people overrating him and also a mixture of him getting power crept. Fighters Pass 2 featured many fighters with extremes to say the least. Extreme range, extreme close quarters combat, extreme setup traps, extreme speed. Wolf is characterized by being above average in every aspect, but not having any one part be head and shoulders above the rest. He has good kill power, but not Diamond Steve or Kazuya levels of power. He has good speed, but not quite enough to where he can shit out damage and confirms like his rival counterpart Fox. He has good neutral, but not Samus or Min levels of neutral, stuff like that. This is reflected throughout his tournament history. Wolf had some of the highest representation pre-pandemic, and even post-pandemic, you had CDK, Orion, Ouch, Jackal, Masha, and Atorie, good players across the board, but collectively they've all drifted downward slowly but surely. Jackal was the last remaining holdout in the top 50, consistently hanging in the 20 to 30 mark before he too got eventually pushed down as a result of the increased competition. That, and I feel like he was never top 10 material to begin with. It's kinda like Pichu, where he would have fallen off even if he never got nerfed. Second to last character is Pokémon Trainer, yet another case of where did they go. The player base at large considered the buffs given to PT from Brawl substantial enough to believe the character was top 10, and with incredibly strong results during the first year and a half of Ultimate's competitive scene, that wouldn't be too far-fetched. You had players like Ned, Puppet, Quid, Tweak, Atoria, and even Levin picked him up for a time back when he tried out Ultimate. Much of their initial success came from how insanely broken Ivysaur was, effectively hard carrying the squad on its own. Following the nerfs in version 4, some of Ivysaur's power budget got shifted to Charizard, leveling the 3 Pokemon out. This was still seen as an overall net nerf to the character though, and since then they went from a top 10 candidate to rank 24 on the list, a high tier at best. But was it really the nerfs that ruined them? Hard to say. In my Why No One Plays episode on them, I brought to light how the key downside of PT is that you have access to many different strengths, but you can never have access to all of them at the same time. There will be moments where you wish you could stay on Squirtle but have Ivysaur's Razor Leaf, or you'll wish you could be on Ivysaur but have Charizard's Up Smash. Moments like these, where you're essentially piloting 80% of a character and have to make up that difference, are what may have caused people to think PT demands too much effort for not enough gain. It doesn't help that all 3 Pokemon also share the same weaknesses, making it really easy to screw them over regardless of which Pokemon you're currently on. And as we've established already, the game has become increasingly more explosive to where a single mistake will put you in disadvantage for all eternity, or you'll just die. Having said that, I think the main causality behind them falling off would be that we just don't have anyone representing them right now. Quinn was the best PT for a short fragment of time, but during that time he took LMBM 2022 and made it past top 8 at Collision 2022 shortly after. Just recently we saw him get 25th at Riptide 2024, and I don't think he grinds that much, so you could make a case that PT still has it in them to be a strong character. It's just everyone who played them kind of dropped them, or they're not playing anymore, so we'll have to wait for someone else to pick them back up. Although I don't think that's going to be happening because next year I think the new Nintendo console is going to come out, and of course with the new console comes a new Smash game. Final character I think will be Lucina. Granted, I know there are plenty other fighters who fell off like Pikachu, Palutena, Shulk, Wario and stuff, but I want to talk about Lucina because she was practically right up there alongside Roy in the top 10, with the number of people arguing she was just a bit better. Yet at the same time, in spite of her incredibly high rating, no one really saw her as the massive threat everyone had to prepare for. Of course, you can attribute that to her also being thought of as Honesty the character, a simple toolkit but a very effective one. She had good movement, some of the best frame data out of any sortie, great range and coverage with most of her attacks consisting of arcing swings, a strong anti-pressure tool with Dolphin Slash that remains one of the most difficult if not impossible recoveries to 2-frame. She was just strong overall. And unlike Roy, while Lucina technically did still have to approach, she could keep a fair distance away from her opponent, no pun intended, and play the mid-range. Having strong reps through Leon, Mr. E, Proto, and even Leo for her time, Lucina had a strong start pre-pandemic, and even post-pandemic people kept faith in her through Proto's strong results. But just over time she slowly but surely went down and down and down the rankings, placing even worse than Roy. In Lucina's case, she's a combination of all the aforementioned factors I went over with the previous 4. She got power crept pretty dang hard by DLC and buffs to other characters. She's a generalist, of which the archetype fell off across the board as the meta became more refined around min-maxing. She received nerfs to her kill power, which charitably speaking was average to begin with, and once again, I think it was because she was kind of overrated. Not a bad character mind you, but I feel like it's impossible for an honest character like her to be top 10 material. Roy, I can see why, but no way can Lucina be top tier when she's as fair as she is. In regards to nerfs, Lucina's forward smash lost a few points of knockback scaling, which may not look like a lot, but we're talking F smash killing at least a good 10% later give or take. Secondarily, her forwarder lost knockback scaling as well. It was labeled a net neutral on the wiki in light of her getting a bit more combo potential with it, but considering it makes people survive edge guards longer or even a straight hit on stage longer, personally I would call it a nerf. Power creep, we got like 5 mid to long range fighters through DLC. Violet, Aegis, Min Min, Sephiroth, and Sora. Additionally, Cloud and Corrin both got buffed. Even Mark got buffed. By extension, Lucina stagnated, hence why she fell off a bit. It's a shame what happened to these characters. Doubtless you may have seen memes on Twitter of people being like, perhaps I've been too harsh on you when looking at the previous top tiers of Wario, Palutena, Wolf, Joker, Lucina, Roy, compared to what we have now. But things change, nothing we can do about it. All we can do is adapt. Who knows, maybe we might see a resurgence in the future. I've seen Leo cooking on Joker in ways he never cooked before, so I'm coping with the rest of us. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on Ultimate's old top tiers if you think I missed a point with any of them. Aside from that, if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at VarsFam, join my Discord server, and check out my other Smash Ultimate discussions if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
Waiting for the third jab, so smart. He's gonna try to go low. Can he spike it? He mistimes it. He grabs the ledge, and with that, MK Leo defeats Weak to be your 2019 EVO champion. You can credit, you can run from it, but in the end, MK Leo will arrive in Grand Finals.
MK Leo.